Welcome to Hail Varsity Radio, the voice of Husker Nation. Insight, opinion, expertise, with the biggest and best names talking Nebraska across the state. Join the show on Twitter at Hail Varsity and at Schmidt_radio. Call in at 402-466-ESPN or 1-800-825-5865. Here's Chris Schmidt.
Hey, we're here at the Mary Cobbler yet again. It's Hail Varsity Radio Road Show. We are in Dublin at the Mary Cobbler. Chris Schmidt and Mark Kraynak. It's not a kidnapping. We have just asked Mitch Sherman to join us, and he did so willingly. Cheers, my friend, to Nebraska and Northwestern in Dublin.
Cheers. It's my first Guinness on the trip. I mean,
really?
which is a disappointment for me since I'm 2 days in. But thank you. This is outstanding. Yeah. There's a fireplace just off to my right.
They legitimately taste a little different here than they do.
I agree.
They actually make them a little bit differently here too.
Okay, yeah. I wasn't overly excited to have a Guinness when I got here. I was just like, all right, whatever. You know, I can get Guinness.
Yeah.
But it tastes different here. Mm-hmm. I really think it does. I mean, there are things like that. I mean, I had some Irish coffee the other night when I was trying to stay awake to work, and that didn't work, but it was good. It's like a Boulevard tastes better when you're in Kansas City. It's that
at
kind
the
of
ball
thing.
game.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Yes. Much better.
Have you yet seen the Guinness tankers? Just like an oil tanker. Branded Guinness tankers driving around fresh Guinness beer. I don't know how that works. No. It's a thing.
I'm going to be on the lookout now. Now that I've had one, I'm going to be looking for the tanker.
Yes, Mitch Sherman's job is to find the tanker, report on Nebraska Northwestern. Elijah Herbal doing great work back at our ESPN studios. So we're at a live show and pod here, getting you ready Friday into the weekend, 1 to 3 locally in Lincoln for the pregame tailgate here. We can't say thanks enough to our friends here at the Mary Cobbler. Will and his staff have been great. We thank Union Bank and Trust for making this road show happen. Guys, it's almost here. We're 24 hours away from Nebraska Northwestern. Took some notes, and right now, from a numbers standpoint, Friday afternoon as we talk, the betting numbers say this: 53% of the bets are on Northwestern, getting those 13 to 13.5 points. 79% of the bets are on the under 50-point total. That may have drifted below 50. And then 54% of the bets, money line-wise, Nebraska minus 515. So Nebraska should win this game. And if they do what they're supposed to do, per Vegas, it's about Nebraska's a 2-touchdown favorite. But that's Mitch Kraynak. That's never been the Northwestern Nebraska series. It's always been tight. It's always been drama-filled. And it's always been Northwestern who's out-executed or took advantage of mistakes. There's so many different storylines on top of coming abroad to do this. But, hey, it's week 0. College football's ready to go. And both these teams should have a great showcase for the city of Dublin and the college football world. It'll be fun tomorrow.
Yeah, I think that last year's game is impacting these betting numbers too much. This is
Good
not.
call.
Yeah, this is not 2021. And Nebraska, the way that it played at home last year, everything fell into place. And Northwestern kind of gave up in that game, I think, which is not what you see typically from a Pat Fitzgerald team. There were even other games last year when Northwestern, with a pretty bad team, took opponents, Big Ten West opponents, down to the wire like they tend to do. So that's the norm for Northwestern. I mean, they give Iowa fits every year. Been known to take it to Wisconsin and give them trouble. Same thing with Minnesota. So I mean, 2 touchdowns is just it's a huge number for this thing. So I'm with the is it 79%, 53%. Sorry, just 53. See, yeah, that's why that line's staying there at around 2 touchdowns, because it's not a big percentage, a high percentage that are betting against Nebraska.
Yeah.
I mean, also, openers are just so unpredictable, especially in week 0.
Right. And for as consistent as Northwestern has been throughout Pat Fitzgerald's tenures, wins and losses aside, but just in terms of the brand of the brand that they play and the fact that you can kind of take to the bank the fact that they're going to play really competent defense. Last year was such an aberration for them, just in terms of like the numbers they were giving up, the yards they were giving up, especially against Nebraska. But then even offensively, I think it was something 5 of their last 6 games, they didn't even top 14 points. It was so out of character for a Fitzgerald team to essentially be outclassed in a lot of ways that you kind of give them the benefit of the doubt, though, to be like, he's probably going to right that ship, and I don't think that is going to be Northwestern moving forward. I don't think they're going to be a juggernaut, but you would figure with it'll be year 2 for the defensive coordinator. They're probably going to get some things right. And that's the biggest thing I took from Pat Fitzgerald's press conference leading into here when he was talking about, he said he felt like, he said something to the effect of, I'm not quoting him correctly, but said something to the effect of, I feel like we have our team back finally, or our mojo, or our identity, something along those lines, where obviously he did not feel like that last year.
Yeah, I mean, if you play a team, and I'm looking up the number right now, but if you play a team 10 times, and 8 of them are nail-biter games,
right?
You expect that the 11th one is going to go in that direction too, when neither team has done a tremendous amount to really... Well, you could say Nebraska has changed the complexion of its program. That's accurate, but I don't know that it's prepared at this. I'm not prepared at this point to say that it's changed to the point where I'm expecting markedly different results.
Right.
This may be a team that wins 6 or 7 games, but it hasn't. It's not a transformation in my expectations about what I'm going to see from this team. I still think they're going to play close games, like we saw just about every week last year. And I think this is going to be one of those tomorrow.
Mitch Sherman with us. We're here at the Mary Cobbler Hail Varsity Radio Roadshow live podcast going on. Mark Kraynak here, Elijah Herbelbank in studio. Coming up, Bill Doleman, the pride of Fairbury, NBC Sports, his usual spot. It'll be good to have Bill back. The infamous Clauseborne. He's imaginary and he wears red, part of the Friday forecast. But Mitch, you've been able to run into some of the national folks as well with the Athletic. What's their take? I know Will Bond's here. I know Andy Staples and Stuart Mandel from the Athletic are here as well. What's their buzz level like for this being the kickoff to college football here? 2 teams that play close ball games, but Nebraska has been one of those teams, folks, early on in the Frost era were in on, and now it's like, all right, man, time to start winning some ball games. So what's the radar level like for Nebraska Northwestern here to kick things off?
Well, Stu and Andy are not here. I wish they were.
So you did the pod though with Andy.
Right.
Yeah.
I did the pod with Andy, and I did the pod with Stu and Bruce Feldman.
Right.
The Audible. So check those out. The Andy Staples show and then the Audible. Did those both while I was here. So
yes.
They wanted to go international. Yeah. Those guys, it's a feather in their cap to be able to have an international guest on their show. Yeah. So that's when I finally get the call. Andy will have me on occasionally.
Yeah.
But Stu and Bruce, they're so big. They're so big time with the Audible. And that was my first appearance on the Audible. I've worked at the Athletic for 3.5 years, and I want to give them a hard time because Stu at the end of this was the first night. I got into town, I couldn't check into my hotel, walked around, went to practice, came back, had some issues with power in my room, did 3 of these radio interviews, and then the Audible pod at 9 o'clock at night while trying to put together a story. And I'm like 35 hours in without sleep.
Oh.
So
hallucinating starts at 48 hours.
Stu's telling me on the show how he can tell that I'm extremely jet lagged, and I'm like, oh, well, that's Thank you. Exactly. Is it because I look terrible or sound terrible? Which one is it?
Both.
Yeah. So we got through it. I think it went well. I hope they have me back.
Sure.
But yeah, those guys, Stu, again, to pile on Stuart Mandel, the editor-in-chief of the Athletic College Football Vertical. Yeah. He picks Nebraska to finish last in the Big Ten West.
He had that out earlier this week. He put his numbers out.
Right.
And Stu got, of course, reaction from Husker Nation.
Right, but he's picking Nebraska to win this game against his alma mater. So I don't know, how did that work? I mean, you're going to beat Northwestern. They're in the Big Ten West together. So I guess bad enough things are going to happen to Nebraska the rest of the way that the Cats are going to climb past them. Nebraska's not going to finish. I don't want to make a declarative statement here, but I don't think Nebraska is going to finish last in the division. So the national narrative, Andy tends to be a little more optimistic on Nebraska things this offseason. I've been on his pod a few times, and we talked at length in person in Arizona when our staff got together in May, and he feels all right about the direction, the way things are going. I mean, you can listen to the Andy Staples show on the Athletic channels to hear more about that. But I think he has a good perspective on what's happened in Lincoln this year with the change and with the big thing that I highlighted in my story today that I don't think we've talked about enough is this is it for Scott Frost on play calling. He's called every play for every game that he's coached since the start of the 2013 season. And here we go, a decade later, and he's handing that headset off to Mark Whipple. That's a big thing for Nebraska football. And I feel like it's kind of slid under the radar. One, because the decision was made in a period of the year where we didn't hear a lot from Scott Frost. And by the time he came out at the end of February, and they had Mark Whipple, and that was about spring practice. And we heard a couple of answers to questions about that subject, and then they moved on and they had spring. And then it went dark again. And we got to July and Big Ten Media Days, and there were other things to discuss. And we've had this preseason camp, and it's been all about getting this team ready to go overseas. So, Hey, this is a totally different deal tomorrow with this offense, and as Whipple calls things. So I'm interested, to say the least, to see how that goes and what Frost's role is in this game.
Scott has talked about it a little bit with being able to be more CEO-ish, stopping by the defense, observing what's been going on in practice versus just locked in. And, the expectation for a lot of coaches, or the hope, when you look at Nebraska and the history, guys want to be a play caller and a head coach, because Coach Osborne did it, and Solich did it for a while, and then gave it to Barney. You had for a while Scott doing it, of course, and it's just you're truly special if you have a special staff and you're a special animal. If you can be the head coach and the play caller, Osborne, Spurrier, Urban Meyer. I mean, that's it, man. That's a short list, and it's so hard. You got to hope you have the rest of the team from a leadership and talent standpoint on a high level.
Chip Kelly, he was a guy that did that at Oregon. But yeah, I'm thinking about this. Bill Walsh.
And Spurrier. I mean, and Spurrier's the other one. So,
but even Kelly gave it up later in his career, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, yeah, I think Helfrich took it over before the transition in 2012-13. But
so is Scott gonna go nuts, not being able to call plays?
It's gonna
be hard for him tomorrow.
Well, this is the part that I think is really interesting, is the fact that October 1st date is looming, to where, look, Trev could have picked any date. He could have picked any date for the buyout.
October 1st, you're saying there's some meaning to that?
He puts it smack in the middle of the season, which clearly ratchets up the pressure. So the question is, what if it's not going well with Whipple calling plays after 2 quarters? Does Frost hit the panic button? There are things like that interest me just as much, because there's always pressure. But there is an insane amount of pressure from now through October 1st that it has to go well.
If it's a mid-game thing, that's a disaster.
Right.
Yeah. If they decide...
You can't rip the keys.
If they decide during a bye week, well, let's add some intrigue to this, an element of a mess to this. Scott Frost has got to serve a 5-day suspension.
Yeah.
And it's it's going to come during a bye week.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
After Oklahoma. Probably.
Suppose he could do it in October during the bye week.
He could do it then too. Yeah.
If he wants to take control of the offense and start calling plays after Oklahoma because Nebraska's 2-2,
oh jeez,
then I don't think he's going to take his 5 days at that point.
Right. Can't.
Well, look, and I think that's the other thing about this year too is it seems pretty clear that you have assembled competent coaches who have had recent success. When you're talking about Mickey Joseph, he He's had very recent success, been a good coach. He's developed, good wide receivers that are the cream of the crop in the NFL. Whipple obviously did really good things with Pitt over the last few years. Mm-hmm. It's a question of whether or not Scott can really let them do their thing or not. And that requires a certain level of maturity, restraint, trust. While that October 1st date is looming, look, a quarterback from Texas, a receiver from LSU, a JUCO running back, an offensive coordinator from Pitt. I mean, that stuff doesn't just magically make a great meal.
Running backs coach from TCU,
right.
I mean,
it's
offensive line coach from the Chicago Bears.
Oh, yeah. Right. That's never coached a unit as the head guy.
Pot. They are the melting pot of an offense this year by any description.
We are making it really, if we're painting here over in Dublin, Ireland, we're painting a bleak picture of, man, there's a lot of things that got to come together to make October 1st just another day.
Well, I don't necessarily feel like that overall in the big picture about how the offense is going to play on Saturday.
I think they'll play all right.
Yeah, I think that they have some advantages physically over Northwestern and with experience because of Casey Thompson and guys like Travis Vokalek and well, there's not a lot on the offense for Nebraska with a ton of experience, but I think there's people in the right spots as leaders that are going to be able to get them through this without having a meltdown. And I thought it was really interesting what Mark Whipple said on Wednesday. Sometimes Mark Whipple just gets really honest.
He's really honest.
It's not always.
Can you hang on to that thought?
Yeah.
We got a quick timeout. We're here live at the Mary Cobbler. It's Hail Varsity Radio, live pod, live show. Mary Cobbler Friday Road Show. And more with Mitch Sherman. He is here from The Athletic. Mark Kraynak is here. Cheers to you. We're having a Guinness. Bill Doleman on the way. It's Hail Varsity, presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with you, Hail Varsity Road Show, a Friday here at the Mary Cobbler. We're in Dublin, Ireland, Nebraska Northwestern tomorrow, Aviva Stadium. It's about 5 minutes away. Mark Kraynak to my left and Mitch Sherman from The Athletic. Our friend Brittany is in from Chicago, big-time Nebraska fan, and she is destroying some wings.
Yeah,
this is impressive.
You don't think Ireland and wings?
But you should.
But then you smell it and you're like, Ireland.
Mitch is going to come across the table.
You know what? What's that to the left of the wings? Is that some slaw?
It's some type of sauce.
Oh, some type of sauce. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, maybe
you know,
empty beer glasses is what I was thinking. Sorry.
You know what? Ireland has surprisingly good pizza. Dublin does.
Oh, really?
It's like New York style.
Okay.
I don't know if it's the Irish style pizza, but there's everywhere in the downtown part of this town has got good pizza.
Huh.
Pizza. It's not all good, but the slice that I had for lunch yesterday was good. And they strangely attempt to go and do like bison burgers and barbecue.
We had lamb last night.
Wow. I'm not feeling the burgers over here, but obviously they do some things pretty well. You hear bad stuff about the Irish food, and I had received some warnings before I came. But if you pick and choose, they're really good at baked goods. Had a great cinnamon roll this morning. There's a donut place that I see like everywhere I go. Offbeat Donuts. Great. I had one of those. Reese's Peanut Butter Cup donut. It was remarkably good.
Yeah.
So, man, Mitch, you're smiling about that. Kraynak made breakfast this morning, eggs and Irish bacon, and we've had a couple of cups of coffee. Incredible.
You can't get regular coffee. Like, they don't allow you to drink. First of all, don't order an iced tea. I did that. They don't like drinks with ice.
Right.
So, you can get like an iced latte or something like that, but that's not their specialty. Iced tea, that was a bad move on my part. I ordered it, and the waitress, she looked at me like, well, you're obviously not from here. I'm not. So forget it. Just give me then I got a Diet Coke, and the Diet Coke came in a glass bottle that was 6 ounces.
Right.
With a wedge of lime and a glass with 2 ice cubes in it.
Okay.
But no coffee, no regular coffee. It's got to be an Americano, a latte, some type of coffee drink. They don't drink. I just generally drink black coffee. And you're not getting that here.
No, they pull espresso and they make all kinds of stuff with it.
Also, they won't take your credit card. I saw earlier you tried to do that, They don't want it. They will bring you the device, and then you tap your card or insert your card. So if you want to tip, Nebraska fans, if you're somehow listening to this and you're in Ireland and you want to tip, you have to add the tip before they run your card.
Because there isn't like a tip option.
I mean, in the United States, you can tip everyone now.
Well, and
they want to tip at Target.
And they pay servers a living wage, so they don't rely on the tips.
One tip at Target.
Yeah,
that's a good idea.
Well, and also,
if you want to tip, you got to do it before. So that's a good thing to know coming.
I just jumping in.
Yeah, I know Mitch can't hear me, but it's kind of like a courtesy respect thing with the card taking in Europe. We studied this in my German class in high school. It's pretty common that it's like a trustworthiness thing. You don't trust somebody to take your card and run it because, what happens if they look up your credit card number and write it down for later? It's like one of those courtesy respect things where, why would I take your credit card? Like, I could do whatever with that. You just run it yourself.
We'll settle it at the end.
Yeah, that's how it goes. The Irish people are very polite.
They're awesome.
Very polite, very nice, friendly. I had a lady on the walk over here. I walked about 2.4 kilometers to get over here. I'm just going with it. It's like it's 18 degrees outside right now, Celsius.
Oh, jeez. You are fully converted.
Right. So I had a lady I ran into on the way over here, and her dog was looking me over. And she started laughing, and she said, my dog, he thinks that you're my husband. And I said, oh, okay.
It's National Dog Day.
Yeah, I don't know. But, she was laughing, and I kind of laughed, and I gave her dog a pet, and I'm clearly not her husband. But it's just... The people that I've run into, they're great.
The best.
They're great.
There's a confused dog walking around right now. Like, he smelled so different.
Are you my dad?
Someone tell Mitch that was a pickup line.
Mitch Sherman's with us. Elijah Herbal back in Lincoln. We're here in Dublin. Road show. We'll get to football. I cut you off.
Yeah.
Talking
about Whipple.
We were talking to Whipple. And Whip,
he's very honest.
You are 1,000%. He gets super honest from time to time.
Like he forgets who he's talking to sometimes.
But he just doesn't care. Right. He's just pretty. He's pretty. Lay it on the table.
It's like the day that he did the first interview at Nebraska back on February 28th, at the start of spring practice, and he basically said Casey Thompson's the starting quarterback.
Yeah. What do you think, guys? At least he's wearing shoes.
Frost is like, open competition.
Yeah, he's the head. Well, when it came to the starters, that's the head coach's call. He made sure that he deferred there. But I'm excited to see Whipple. There's been a fear factor with Whipple and his pass to run offense, and what's that ratio going to be? Whipple's going to be physical. He wants this offense to be physical, and he's going to do what he thinks is easiest or most vulnerable for an opposing defense. What can we wail away on if we're the Nebraska offense based on what I see for film and what I see strengths-wise from my own offensive guys?
Well, what he said on Wednesday was that he is hopeful that Nebraska, or what he needs them to do is not to lose the game in the first quarter. Right. And everyone's thinking it. Yeah. You saw it last year. It may not have all been the first quarter, but it was the second quarter. Yeah. It was the Cam Taylor-Britt throwing the ball in the air for a safety. It was the 30 yards and penalty on one play by Caleb Tanner. It was the scoop and score touchdown
before
when
half.
Adrian lost the ball. You know that they have a tendency to do that. Or they did have a tendency to do that. And I think based on Whipple's comment, he's got some concerns that it could all come back. I think some of these people who came in from the outside, Casey Thompson, Mark Whipple, they've been the two most upfront about it. They genuinely recognize that in watching Nebraska play last year, just going over film, talking to teammates and in the case of Casey and players that Whipple has coached, that this is a wounded group, and it wouldn't take a lot for them to fall back into some of the old traps that cost them.
Right.
And they are really focused on getting Nebraska off on a good note so that all of the nightmares don't come back into their minds. You hear very similar comments from Thompson and from Whipple about being positive, trying to make these guys feel good. As if they make a mistake, okay, it's not about the mistake; it's how you respond to the mistake. It's been an issue with Nebraska for a long time, and it's good on them for recognizing that and being upfront about addressing it.
That even goes back to Bo.
It does.
Yeah, it's been happening for a while. What did you make? There are a couple names that have surfaced in different ways recently. So one, Caleb Tanner being elected a captain. I don't think anybody had that one pegged.
No.
And then Marcus Buford getting a black shirt.
Yeah.
He has done very little
Had
on the
that.
field so far. You did have that one.
You called it.
Back in the winter, I had that one. Yeah.
So
maybe as a corner, but it ended up being safety.
I know he's been talked up quite a bit, right? Like the coaches love him, but he hasn't played a lot.
Right.
The guy just hasn't played a ton. So
True
the fact
freshman
that-
last year, and
Right.
when he got on the field, he made his presence known.
Right.
Yeah.
What do you think it says, if anything, both of those things? The fact that Caleb Tanner is a captain that nobody had, and then Buford, he played very sparingly last year. He did well. I'm not saying he did bad, but I think to go from that to black shirt was surprising, considering they didn't name the full 11.
I wasn't surprised about Buford at all because if you talk to him, and I did last year, he has a presence. You talk to O'Shawn Mathis, he has a presence.
Yeah.
And Marquise Buford is 4 years younger than O'Shawn Mathis, but he's got that going on.
Yeah.
He's a Texas guy.
Sure.
And I do think sometimes those Texas guys, because of where they played and how they played in high school, the level, the attention that was on the game, they come in a little bit ahead.
Right.
A lot of times players from Nebraska or Iowa or wherever will catch up to them, and then you can't tell a difference 3-4 years in, but early in their careers. Remember Rex Burkhead? And,
right.
And the maturity that he had
Yeah.
when he came into Nebraska.
Big stages. They played on big stages
Right.
before.
So
they
Buford's
came
got some of that to his advantage. The other guy I'd say on that defense, and to answer your question, is Colton Feast.
Right.
He's the other one where you're like, wow, this guy's a starter now. And this is a big jump for somebody like that.
Yeah.
What it says about the defense is that Eric Chenander and his coaches, they develop players.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty clear.
That's not the way that Nebraska has found success on offense. And if they're going to have success on offense this year, it's going to be because they picked the right transfers, because they've gotten themselves to mesh and play as one.
Why? Why is one side of the ball developmental and you've seen it continue to move the right direction, and now you're on a third offensive coordinator in year 5 on the offensive side of the ball? Why is it so yin-yang?
It's a loaded question.
I know it is, but I'm saying it out loud because you've got really talented folks and bright minds on offense. I think with Chenander, to your point about development, you've got just dudes that are gonna grind away, in my humble opinion, on the defensive side of the ball. And I think you now have some guys on the offensive side now that are going to do the same. I think they'll grind away, and that's not a shot at past guys, because I thought there were some decent coaches that are no longer here. But it is a loaded question. But why does the defense get it as they're moving the right way? The offense again's in reset mode.
Chenander and Travis Fisher are really good.
Yeah.
And Barrett Ruud is really good when he gets his guys, and he has them now.
Yeah.
I think Fisher and Chin's at everything that they do, all the way around, from recruiting to player identification to development, all of that, they are among the best in the business at what they do. And someday, when they're gone, whether it's because Nebraska doesn't meet the standard that is required this year, or because they get opportunities, and Travis Fisher has had them, and I think Chenander could have had them if he pursued them. Someday, we're going to look back at those two guys in particular and say, I don't know that we appreciated them enough when they were here. Because they both do a great job of developing players. Look at the guys who've come out of the secondary for Nebraska, from DiCaprio Boodle to Lamar Jackson to Cam Taylor-Britt. Now you got this next group of players with Quentin Newsome and Miles Farmer. I think there's going to be some NFL players in this group. Maybe it'll be Tommy Hill. Maybe it'll be, I think Buford is a future NFL player. You might have one in Deshaun Singleton or Omar Brown. He coaches guys up. He teaches them how to play. And I think it's the same thing with Chenander as a coordinator. He coaches the nickels. Look what he did with JoJo Doleman the last 2 years.
Big time.
Yeah. Good coaches.
Yep, Mitch Sherman. Mitch, thanks for popping by.
Yeah,
Appreciate you. Get another Guinness. Coming up, Bill Doleman and the Friday forecast with Hail Varsity.
And we're back
Fellas, you think we could listen to the radio
on Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
Yes! That's awesome!
Back with you, Hail Varsity, here at the Mary Cobbler, the live radio and podcast going on here. 1853 when this pub was founded. Will has had us in here. We're back tomorrow ahead of Nebraska Northwestern in Dublin.
And it's going to be shoulder to shoulder.
It's going to be awesome. Can't wait. Big thanks to the friends at the Mary Cobbler that have had us here, our friends from Executive Travel that hooked us up, and the great folks from Union Bank and Trust that have helped send us this way. Kraynak, hey, we've got Bill Doleman on the way. We spent time with Mitch Sherman, and we'll do more breakdown tomorrow ahead of kickoff here, 1 to 3, again at the Mary Cobbler. But just a great sense of not just relaxation, but what a country, what weather. Mm-hmm. This is fall without all the leaves and dust in the air.
Yeah, no, it's
beautiful.
Yeah, it's a great atmosphere.
You've been hiking already.
Yeah,
you went hiking to a mountain.
Yeah, I've been here a couple times before that, but yeah, and for all the people that were saying, why is Nebraska playing in Ireland? Well, there's a couple different reasons. One of the reasons is, look, it's something that the Ireland Tourism Board wants to do. They want to bring American football here, and they can't get the NFL here, right? At least so far.
But they've got the NFL on 4 different channels over here.
No, they do. It's a growing sport in general, and relatively speaking, if you're going to go to another country, it's one of the easiest to get in and out of. Mm-hmm. It's not that far away. It's not like you're going deep into Central Europe or something like that. The language barrier doesn't exist, so it's a relatively easy flight. The stadium works. There's a lot of reasons why it's good. We'll see how Nebraska responds on the way back. I think that's the bigger concern, is that all of a sudden you got North Dakota coming up a week afterwards, right? And so how are you going to readjust when you come back? That's a whole nother story.
Mark, really fast.
The fan base has responded real quick, Elijah.
Go for it.
15,000. I mean, it looks like Hyde Park and Jerry Garcia's on guitar.
Oh, is that now?
That's the podcast. That's the
pep rally.
The pep rally that's going on.
Oh my goodness! I had not seen the video of that yet.
Yeah, it just came out. Aaron Sorensen doing a great job of coverage with Hail Varsity. Yeah, that's the podcast going on. I mean, it's just nuts. The Big Red Army, the right Red Army.
It looks like College Game Day, but in Dublin, Ireland.
Watch out.
That is absolutely ridiculous.
Buy stock in Jameson and Guinness. Right?
Yeah,
just do it now.
It's going to be really something else. By the way, kudos to you, the Nebraska Sportscaster of the Year, Chris Schmidt. You are so committed to bringing everybody the Irish experience that you quite literally soaked, inadvertently, one of your earbuds in Guinness and are currently having that said earbud in your ear. So Guinness is now going through your brain, coursing through that. But you're also, that's just part of how you roll, man. There's
a lot of Schmidts in Ireland.
You're gonna dip the mic in some lamb stew later.
Oh, I'm going to. Here's what happened.
Ready to go.
I sat down and I moved the non-earbud out of the way. I flipped it.
Yeah,
it's like we're playing bags.
You're being a little logical here. I think you were trying to do it to bring the experience to people.
If I meant to do it, I couldn't do it.
And we appreciate it.
Thank you, though, for pointing that out, because Elijah saw it happen, too. And he's like, hey, Mark, do you see what that loser did?
Well, and he was like, was that mashed potatoes? It's like, no, that is a good, nice little foam.
Well, it was funny because he took that earbud and he popped it in his mouth to get all the Guinness off.
I had to. I didn't have a napkin around.
It was just caught. You don't know where that earbud's been.
Stuck in his.
Well, you do, but the grossness of your ear.
Hygiene. You both back off.
Hey, now
you may have great hygiene, but I'm not sure I want to dip anything into my ear and then put it straight in my mouth.
And Schmitty, you could
different.
You could have your physician listening right now. Tell me, do you use Q-tips to clean out your ears?
I use Q-tips, and I will use Q-tips first. And
your physician's disappointed already. Those are not for use in ears.
Worse, but here's the thing: you do the liquid thing. Okay. It could really mess you up. You do the liquid after if it's still. But the point is you don't go 7 years between ear cleanings.
This is true.
Ear cleanings? You're supposed to do that? What do you do with liquid? I have not heard of this.
After your Q-tip.
Oh.
Well, have you seen the new?
Equilibrium.
Have you seen the ear candles that people use
this whole time?
Where people put like the little mini candles in their ears, and apparently it draws all your earwax up to this candle.
It does. Yeah.
Yeah. It's still just weird to think about.
I'll wake up, and I got to just be honest here. I'll wake up in the middle of the night. Erin will have her knee on my neck, and she'll be making sure it gets cleaned out.
Well, we have gone off the rails here completely.
No, I'm just telling you. I mean, she's just kind of vicious.
If we want to go a little bit more off the rails, Mark mentioned just a little bit ago, like Husker fans don't have to go to Central Europe for this game. Like it's an easy flight. But what if they were playing in Central Europe? Can we envision just how like electric a Nebraska-Rutgers game would be in like Serbia? That'd be great.
Coliseum. I think we go Coliseum instead of Serbia. But
no, those fans in Eastern, they know how to party. That's all I'm saying. Eastern European sports fans know how to party.
Dublin's done it right, and they picked the right fan base because Nebraska's here in droves. You want to reopen things up and kick off normalcy. It's Nebraska on the road. It's Nebraska fans traveling. And it's folks like Executive Travel getting you to your destination. Love you, Paul.
Well, let's quick. We got about 2 minutes left here. Are there any other destinations you guys would like to see Nebraska play at?
Mexico City.
God, this was number one for me, to be honest. I was just like, yeah, absolutely perfect.
Actually, check that. X out Mexico City. Give me Cancun.
How about Honolulu?
1, 2, 3, Cancun.
Well, Nebraska's been to Honolulu.
It's been a bit.
It's been a bit. It was late 80s, I
That
think.
used to be the end of Devaney'd scheduled Nebraska v. Hawaii early 80s.
Yeah.
Pineapples were on sale, and yeah.
But in terms of practicality, now, it would be different to do bowl games. Like
They used to do the Hawaiian Bowl. People loved it.
Well, yeah, why not do a bowl game in, like, Sydney, right? You don't have to come back right away.
That's a great point. Why don't we do some more international bowl games?
Exactly.
Because I think the only one we have right now is we have Puerto Rico, which isn't technically even like foreign soil.
Bahamas. The Bahamas is another
Caribbean,
one.
yeah.
So like, we're gonna talk to our people over here, the Irish folks that we've met. Just be like, dude, get a bowl game. What are you doing
They
kicking
should.
off the year with this thing?
Well, next year's Navy Notre Dame,
Yeah.
Part 2. That'll
Yeah.
be good.
Yeah.
The Emerald Isle Bowl,
Yeah,
that's got a ring to it.
Nebraska needs to do this every 5 years.
To come to Ireland?
Come to Ireland.
Specifically?
Yes.
Ireland
It might be
specific.
in the rotation now.
Let's just book it for Nebraska Northwestern.
See, I'm
Notre
cool with
Dame and Navy
Nebraska
are in the rotation.
internationally
When
once
Notre
every
Dame
5 years.
joins
I'm not
the
sure about
Big
just
Ten at
Dublin.
gunpoint, we're going to play Nebraska Notre Dame over here. Done.
That's probably going to happen too.
Right? When Notre Dame joins the Big Ten at gunpoint,
Yeah.
you're coming to Ireland.
That would be good.
Hey,
Yeah.
this has been special for us. We've been
been fun.
buddies for several decades.
Yeah.
And done radio together from college to now.
Yeah.
And it's special. 21 years ago, we went to South Bend.
That's right.
We ended up in Pennsylvania after the game somehow, and we made it back to Linebackers Bar.
we did.
And we saw Crouch take care of it at walk-off in overtime.
Right.
If you're a Nebraska fan, we pray it's not that close tomorrow, but this is great, man. This is fun. We're in Dublin tomorrow. Mary Cobbler, 1 to 3. Local time at the Mary Cobbler, 7 to 9 a.m. weekend edition with Hail Varsity Radio, Mark Kraynak, Chris Schmidt, and our dear friend Elijah Herbal back at our ESPN studios. Again, big thanks to Union Bank and Trust for making this happen. Winding down this first hour, coming up in hour 2, Bill Doleman will join us. A couple of segments from him. And then the infamous Clauseborne. He's imaginary, he wears red. Our Friday forecast. We'll talk to you here, hour 2 on the way with Hail Varsity.
Chime in 402-466-ESPN or email the show, Chris@HailVarsity.com.
Just try me. Try me.
Back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One last time here for hour 1 on a Friday edition of Hail Varsity Radio as we get you all geared up for Nebraska and Northwestern. We will have a Saturday morning edition coming your way from 7 to 9 a.m. You can stream that, and we should also have the podcast posted up before kickoff to get you all geared up. We still got an hour of the show coming up after the break here. This hour, we're going to have Bill Doleman joining us to lead off hour 2, I should say. And I think Bill's going to be sticking around for 2 segments with us, and we love chatting with Bill on a Friday. It's been a couple weeks as he's been getting acclimated to a new job, but Billy D will be joining us. The pride of Fairbury for 2 segments. Next hour, we're also going to hear from the man, the myth, the legend. All we really know about him is that he wears red. Clauseborne will be joining us for our first edition of the Friday forecast. That is coming your way at 5:40. So about 50 minutes away, we're going to be talking to Claus. That is going to be fun stuff. Love talking to Claus. Before we get out of here this hour, I know Schmidt and Mark, they've been focused on the task at hand, which is Northwestern. And I believe those two are off to the bar right now, going to belly up, order themselves another Guinness and get a second hour of the show rocking. And something that has gone by the wayside, I promise you, it's recruiting talk. And sometimes recruiting talk can get thrown to the side once the season gets going. But Nebraska picking up a big commitment yesterday from a first-star talent out of IMG Academy. It's a guy we talked about a couple of weeks ago, Cameron Lenhardt, committing to the Huskers. He is a 6'3", 240, now maybe 250 pound, gonna call him a defensive end from down at IMG Academy. And IMG has turned out good players for years. I think of even Brock Bando, currently in the Nebraska roster. He was an IMG product, and looks like he's going to be getting the start tomorrow at right guard. Nebraska now picking up another commitment, this time from Cameron Lenhardt. And I say kind of a defensive end because we don't really know what the Husker coaching staff has planned for Cameron Lenhardt. He's a guy that through his prep career has played everywhere from hand in the dirt defensive end to that edge position that we see from Garrett Nelson and Caleb Tanner and potentially O'Shawn Mathis this season, where you can't have the hand in the dirt. You could be up on just your 2 legs, no hand in the dirt, but still playing that outside contained position. Or Lenhardt, even last season at IMG, moved down the line of scrimmage a little bit and played that 3 technique defensive tackle. So he's played all over, and at 6'3", 250 pounds, he's got that flexibility that he can do a couple of different things for IMG and potentially can do a couple of different things for Nebraska. So it's going to be intriguing to see what Nebraska decides to do with Cameron Lenhardt. But I think with a frame like that, he's a guy that could be college ready sooner rather than later. 6'3", 250 is already pretty filled out. He needs to add a little bit of athleticism and maybe a little bit of bend if he wants to be an edge rusher at Nebraska. But a big recruiting win for Nebraska as they beat out Penn State. Penn State was high on Lenhardt's list. He visited there 3 or 4 times, but that June visit to Nebraska locked it up as he was in town on June 24th. And 2 months later, almost to the day, he commits to Nebraska. Not necessarily out of nowhere. There was some momentum moving towards Nebraska's way, but nonetheless, that is a big recruiting win for Nebraska. That'll pretty much do it for us here this hour. We're going to return in about 8 minutes, and that's when Bill Doleman will be joining the show, as well as Clauseborne. If you missed anything from hour 1, including all of Mitch Sherman, you can check that out in podcast form. Hail Varsity's YouTube page or wherever you like to get your podcast, ESPNLincoln.com, another great place to get those segments. So that'll do it for hour 1 of Hail Varsity Radio. Hour 2 of Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery, is coming up next. Bill Doleman is on the way.
Welcome to Hail Varsity Radio, the voice of Husker Nation. Insight, opinion, expertise, with the biggest and best names talking Nebraska across the state. Join the show on Twitter at Hail Varsity and at Schmidt_radio. Call in at 402-466-ESPN or 1-800-825-5865. Here's Chris Schmidt.
Back with you at Hour 2 at Hail Varsity Radio. The live pod and radio continues from the Merry Cobbler. Now, just word to the wise, we're back here 1 to 3 Dublin time tomorrow in front of Nebraska and Northwestern. Big thanks to Mitch Sherman with us from The Athletic. He sat in and was just wowed by the Merry Cobbler. We had our friend Brittany crush some Irish wings. Did you order those yet, or are you waiting on it?
Got some cauliflower wings coming, which really aren't wings by any stretch. It's just a way to,
You've already been on a hike before.
Keep your slim figure, right? That's the whole thing.
We are cheersing Guinness. We welcome in the pride of Fairbury. NBC Sports' Bill Doleman. And if you're watching us on the stream and YouTube channel, Hail Varsity's YouTube page, Bill, you're wearing your Irish green. I'm taunting you with a Guinness from Ireland in hand. Do want to say a shout out to Jim Norlam Sr. His son moved over here a few years back, but he listens to Hail Varsity. his dad, Jim Sr., listens, and then he wanted to shout out to Angel and Steve Foster. They're in Curtis, Nebraska, out west. They're hearing us on Omaha's 590. So, tip of the cap to the Norlams and Fosters, big Red fans that'll be down for some tailgates stateside. Bill, we are smiling at the experience, the people, the food, and yes, football tomorrow. You've been over here to see Van Morrison. You should have rolled with us to see some football tomorrow.
I wish I could be there, but somebody's got to, hold things down here in Nebraska. But I'm just so proud of you for trying your first authentic, real Guinness in the land of Guinness. So very, very good on you guys for doing that. I thought Mary Cobbler was somebody that you met. I didn't realize it was the bar that you were at. But I was also going through some of my new vocabulary that I've learned on your show the last couple of days. Rudy, I guess, is something that I don't want to talk about in mixed company.
No, apparently not.
And Mary doesn't have anything to do with the cute whore? What?
Q-Tor.
Q-Tor. Oh,
Yes.
okay.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
All right.
No, it's actually spelled the way you would think, though.
No,
Yes.
I threw it in the private chat. How it looks. It's 2 words, and yeah,
Oh, okay. Oh, whore.
whore. Yeah.
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 That makes it a lot better. Okay. So I thought.
And just off to the side, did you get a rack of lamb?
So I just ordered this. Here's the thing. Like, they value things are priced differently in different countries.
The rack of lamb here at the
No,
American.
this is the ribs.
Those are the
appetizer.
ribs? Oh, wow. They look like rack
10
of lamb.
euros.
Sorry.
And it's probably 15 bones total. So that'll work.
Mitch Sherman's plotting.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how they're going to do barbecue wise over here, but as long as you smoke the meat well, it should be fine.
And tell me, what is the conversion rate between euro and U.S. dollar look like? Has the U.S. dollar just finally overtaken the euro in terms of value? Which is worth more right now?
No, it's $1 equals like $1.20 euro, roughly.
So I'm going to bring this back to football. What's the conversion rate going to be, Doleman, with yards and points for the offense under Whipple?
This all-star team that Nebraska has assembled for the 2022 season, everybody still has, name tags, not just names on the back of the jersey this year. They're still wearing name tags, that you get at the Holiday Inn when you go down for a convention. They still have those in the front of their jersey so that everybody knows who everybody is and where they came from. But I do think that has to, even though it may be difficult, I do think that has to translate into better production. I would think that those guys would probably all come together because they all came to Nebraska for a reason. They all left where they were for a reason. They all came to Nebraska for a reason. Whether that is somewhat of selfish intent, which, it probably is. I want to get mine, I want to get my numbers, and I want to get going. But I do think that they all came here thinking, you know what, we can make a difference here. So I would think that Mark Whipple and Scott Frost and all those guys have the newcomers on the right page, going in the right direction. Is it going to gel right away? Hard to say. I see that 50-point over-under number, and I think that's pretty tough for both teams to get there when you've got so many newcomers on Nebraska. Yeah. But I just think that after what Nebraska's been through, that this is going to work. I think it's going to work fairly quickly. I think Casey Thompson's experience is important. I like Nebraska's quarterback situation better than Northwestern's, and their guys coming back.
Oh, yeah.
And by the way, does anybody know who Nebraska's playing tomorrow? Nobody's talking about Northwestern. I mean, I perused the internet. I looked at the preview. Nobody has talked about Northwestern until really today. That it's, the season begins tomorrow, and it's Nebraska, and it's rolling the dice. Northwestern, that's who they're playing. So we're going to break down the game. For the past several weeks, for months, it's been Nebraska. And it goes back to what I always say. Nebraska matters.
Well, Bill, I'll just hop on that real quick because this week I was doing some heavy legwork trying to find a Northwestern beat writer we could bring on the show, and I looked around. They just don't exist. There's no such thing as Northwestern beat writer. I mean, there's like one on Twitter I found. Like, what are you going to do with that?
The Fairbury Journal News is probably next door to you covering the game. I mean, everybody in Nebraska is paying attention to this. The Jacksonville Sun probably has somebody there covering the game. But you're right. It just, in Northwestern, it's a little bit like, what I've left in Denver. Nobody pays attention to the University of Colorado unless they're playing Nebraska, every few years. But for the most part, I don't even think people in Colorado know that the college football season begins this weekend. And I don't know if anybody in Chicago knows that the college football season begins this weekend because they're talking Cubs, White Sox, and Bears. And the Blackhawks get started pretty soon. So, all of the attention, once again, is on Nebraska.
Yeah, Bill, you mentioned that you don't know if the offense is going to gel right away. I think the other big change that Nebraska's made is on the special teams this year. They brought in new specialists. They brought in a special teams coordinator in Bill Bush, who's a very accomplished and veteran coach. Do you think special teams can gel much sooner? And do you expect Nebraska to show marked improvement this year and perhaps even here in week 0?
As long as Bill can say, punt the ball this way, and the ball goes that way, win.
Yeah.
If the first couple of extra points of the season are good and not adventurous and, clanking out the posts, I think that's a great sign. As long as guys are going down and hitting people and making tackles and making sure that's, I think on special teams the last couple of years, in addition to the wayward kicks, the wayward punts, and seeing punters roam around Memorial Stadium for 48 yards, I think the tackling on special teams, as I've looked back, has not been that good, which is really surprising because the guys you want on special teams are the guys who are trying to make a name for themselves. But I don't think we've seen necessarily great tackling on special teams. And guys are getting, 5 to 15 to 20 yards on a return when they should not at all. So that actually is maybe something I'm going to look at more closely tomorrow. I hope the kicks are good. Come on. But I hope that the tackling on kickoffs and punt returns or punt coverage is better than what we've seen in the past.
Bill Doleman with us, pride of Fairbury, NBC Sports, Hail Varsity Radio. Roadshow Friday. We're here at the Mary Cobbler. And Kraynak, you go ahead, man. If you want to.
No.
You got your fork.
I am hungry.
You are.
Don't put Flintstone on those things. Come on.
You're either going to use that on me or not.
I'm going to put it in my eye.
So use it.
Okay.
But I want to go back to special teams for a minute, Bill. And you have the practice what you preach mentality. You have Bill Bush talking about how huge it is. And you have Bill Bush demanding that starters, the best athletes, get on the field to participate in this. It's not, well, let's put a Band-Aid on this thing because it's not important. It's gotten you killed in different games the last 3 years. It's been a grenade. You fumbled around and bang, it blew up. It's one thing to have Bill Bush stand on the table and say how big they are. But it's quite another for Bill Bush to be able to say, yeah, you're a starting wide receiver, you're a starting running back, Ramir Johnson. You've started a lot of ball games. And this is how it used to be. You'd have Wistrom on special teams. You'd have Rucker. You've had Makovicki. You'd have guys that are big-time names playing. And Bama does it. Nebraska is not too good to invoke this. And finally, they get it. And it took Bill Bush coming here to do it, and it took Bill Bush to really be given the reign to do it, and you've got all the other coaches pitching in. That's going to be worth 3 to 7 points a game for Nebraska just in coverage and execution. And maybe even more points if you get someone else to screw up and mishandle things on their end the way Nebraska's done over the years.
You know, in thinking about Bill, and now here's a guy who's from Pender. He's a Nebraska native. He's like us, and he remembers what it was like back in the day. Mm-hmm. And he cut his teeth in coaching under Coach Osborne and knew what it was like when every detail was covered and every detail was perfected. And I would bet that when he became the special teams coordinator, or even maybe last year when he was an analyst, he probably sat in his office in the quiet of the night sometimes thinking, this just isn't the way we paid attention to detail. And I would think that there is a certain pride that he remembers, that back in the day that everything was covered and everything was covered well. And it wasn't just, okay, you guys go out there because you're the first 11 I see. So I would think that there's probably a lot of pride being coached into that unit based just on where Bill's roots are as a college football coach. And if it's special teams and that's where the detail has to be, then maybe Nebraska is going to be markedly better just because of the pride Bill has in what his roots were. And now he's got the opportunity to put his stamp on one area of this football team that could stand to show the absolute most improvement. And Nebraska always treated special teams as important as offense and defense. And I'm not sure we can necessarily say that the last 4 or 5 years or 20.
Bill Doleman's with us here on Hail Varsity Radio. We got about 4 minutes left here in this segment. And Bill, are we going another segment with Bill, Chris? You tell me.
We are. We have 2.
Okay. So, Bill.
Unless he runs away.
So, Bill, I can stick with the special teams. That was my question. I didn't know if I wanted to stick with the special teams or move elsewhere. But with the special teams, one thing that we haven't really seen, and this almost feels like the way college football is moving, and it gets overlooked a little bit in the special teams sense, is that return game itself. I mean, when the kicking's this bad, when the punting's this bad, when the tackling's this bad, you kind of forget that, hey, you know what? Nebraska's allowed to have a punt return, or hey, Nebraska's allowed to have a kick return. And it feels like Nebraska has better options back there. And while it's getting overlooked a little bit, how much can that change the game tomorrow if, say, Nebraska breaks off a 40-yard punt return from Trey Palmer, or if someone decides to take one out of the end zone and actually gets out to the 20 for once when they take it out and they kick off? I mean, that is something that just gets so overlooked, yet it can be a huge factor in the game, or a swing play that Nebraska is yet to see in special teams under Scott Frost, that swing play where Nebraska maybe even houses a punt.
You're right. And the mental game of special teams, I think, could play a huge factor in the success, not just tomorrow, but the entire part of the season. If they've got confidence that they might get good field position, that they're going to play crisply and do the right things and make wise decisions, don't bring it out when you field it 5 yards in the end zone and you start off 1st and 10 at the 7. I think that there are a lot of ways the special teams play could have a huge mental impact on how Nebraska performs tomorrow and throughout the course of the season. Because look, how many times did fans watch last year and you're just thinking, okay, here's the extra point. What's going to happen? Here's the punt. Where's it going to go? Are they going to catch the punt? Are they going to get a safety on a punt return? I mean, think of all of the things that have been detrimental and just been a buzzkill as you get ready to go take the field and you start at the 7-yard line, or you got a safety on a punt, or you kick the ball the wrong way. And all of a sudden that just continually accumulates throughout the course of the season, where special teams aren't, some may think of them as an afterthought. It was almost a first thought, like, what can go wrong now? If that can be eliminated and special teams just plays consistently and smartly, then you're going to be able to maintain an edge throughout the course of the game. I think that's a great point, just in terms of how much of a swing it can have in the mental aspect of a game. I mean, seriously, when we would punt in the last couple of years, didn't you think, oh my God, what could happen now? Or somebody goes back
scared.
Right.
You're scared.
Did you ever feel that way, even when Mike Stiggy was punting?
Never.
Or Darren Erstad, or Chris Brown was kicking? It was just kind of automatic. You were just so confident in the special teams play. But now you're thinking, what could happen? What could happen? What could happen? If they can eliminate that, that's a win.
Bill Doleman's with us, Pride of Fairbury, NBC Sports. We're here at the Mary Cobbler Roadshow Friday. It's been incredible to be here in Dublin as we get you ready for Nebraska Northwestern. Mark Kraynak is crushing ribs. There is a little bit of Guinness left. Bill Doleman is jealous of the Guinness intake. Elijah Herbal back at our ESPN studios. A quick timeout. We'll continue on hour 2. Your friends at Union Bank and Trust helping make this possible. Hail Varsity continues here live in Dublin at the Mary Cobbler.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with you, Tail Varsity. We're here at the Mary Cobbler. Denied. You were offering our friend Brittany some more wings, some more ribs here at the Mary Cobbler.
She said, get out of here.
She said, forget about it. How's the Guinness treating you? Delicious, yeah? She's like, yeah, that one's mine, yeah? Kraynak is working on his. Chris Schmidt, Mitch Sherman hanging out. Good to spend time with him in hour one. Elijah is going to get a hug and a thank you, and when we get back to the States. And Bill Doleman wearing his Irish green. That is beautiful. I love the Northwestern tribute to the Irish flag with their N on the helmet. We talked in hour one about the red N on so many drivers' vehicles here in Dublin. But that stands for novice drivers. Watch the hell out. I'm going to make Junior put 3 red N's on whatever vehicle he's driving when he turns 16 in November.
You know, my daughter drives around with the Lincoln Salt Dogs license plate holder on her car out in Denver. Yeah. But word to the wise, for those of you who ever make a trip over to Dublin, I know you can't get there now, but don't ever order a Coke or an O'Doul's at an Irish pub. That might get you tossed out on your backside. That's a voice of experience, I might add.
We're talking to our friend David, who's sitting at the table. He's giving the thumbs up, and he started watching American football when he was 11 and was a big Cowboys fan. Danny White, it was his guy, and he's excited for it. And I mean, Trev Alberts sending out some tweets a little earlier today with the pep rally. And I mean, it looks like you have a Red Army invasion, the right type of Red Army. But the Aer Lingus fans and folks are expecting 40 to 42,000 tomorrow, and I think 16,000 folks from Ireland. So you're going to have good Nebraska numbers here, and Wilbon's here, so he'll find a TV set and some angry takes to spew. No, not Mikhail Wilbon, Michael Wilbon.
I was just wondering.
Michael Wilbon might be the only Northwestern fans that knows that they're playing tomorrow.
There have not been many. You know, on the flight over from Atlanta, I would say 30 to 40% of them were Husker fans.
Yeah.
On the plane, and I would say 0.05% were Northwestern fans. There was like 4. There's just not,
I would not doubt if there's some Nebraska fans who right now are sitting somewhere stateside going, we can make it over there. I bet there's some walk-up Husker fans tomorrow.
Yeah.
Fly up and walk up.
I wouldn't be surprised by that.
We are bringing the wonderful bartenders here at the Mary Cobbler. You left them a Herbie Husker shirt.
Yep. Give him a Herbie Husker shirt.
And I'm giving him a black shirt, the Hail Varsity T-shirt that says Black Shirts on it. So we've got a couple of sweet gals and her boyfriend that are tending bar, and the gentleman who owns Mary Cobbler.
Yeah, Will.
Will is just great. The Irish rugby team and their coaches drink here.
They're very close to the stadium. You're a 5-minute walk from the stadium.
Yeah.
Which is it's a good thing. And now let's get back to this coming up game with Nebraska and Northwestern. And we were talking about special teams earlier. I want to get your take on this, Bill, too, especially one change that is being made at kick return. You haven't seen this too often, but it sounds like it's going to be Anthony Grant. And Anthony Grant is kind of a pro-style tailback, if there's such a thing. Mm-hmm. You know, 205, 210 pounds. Runs hard, squarely built, powerful guy, good speed. That was something that was pretty routine in the heyday, is that the I-backs would be your kick returners. You have options there. You can go receiver, you can go DB. There's a lot of different options. But in particular, in the heyday, the kick returners were usually tailbacks. Nebraska's going back to that with Anthony Grant. Do you think that could pay dividends?
Absolutely. Because that running back room is so deep, you know, with returning guys and talented newcomers, and guys are going to want to get on the field. And if that's the way they're going to get on the field, then they've got to make the most of those opportunities. Now, is Ramir Johnson going to be the lone tailback that's going to get 30 carries in a game? No, I don't think anybody believes that, and I think we're going to see him line up all over the field. But if you tell Anthony Grant, this is an opportunity for you to make your mark and to make some big plays. And also, look, you might get an opportunity at the next level. And if you can return kicks, Amir Abdullah's made somewhat of a living in the NFL the last few years as a quality college running back who's been a kick returner in the NFL now for 7 teams. But nevertheless, he's getting a paycheck. Mm-hmm. And if you get those guys saying, look, this is an incredibly important part of what we're trying to do, and you can have a huge impact on this game, and it might get you some more carries later on. If you embrace this role and Bill Bush and those guys challenge them that this is an opportunity for you, this is not an afterthought, I think it's a very wise move. Of course, one of the most infamous plays in Nebraska football history was at Kansas State back in 1982, 83, when Mike Rozier, the Heisman Trophy winner, takes a kickoff in the Kansas State end zone, runs it out to the 2, then backs up and takes a safety. Okay, we can laugh about the punt return for a safety last year, or we can't laugh about that. We can be dismayed by that one because we lose the game. The Rozier thing is kind of funny because Nebraska had to come from behind to beat Kansas State 62-2. But Mike Rozier, the Heisman Trophy winner, was returning kicks back in the day. And Tom said, every play on the field is important. And if you convince those guys that it is, then they're going to pay dividends for you. And yeah, it's been different in the past. I mean, I think DeJuan Gross was a great, punt returner for Nebraska, sure-handed, and had some big plays. He was a defensive back. I remember Mike Foreman back in the day was about 5'6", and that was his job, So any number of people have had that role. But if you can get a quality running back like that to make plays, big deal.
Well, Bill, you mentioned the depth of that Husker running back room. I think a lot of people are using that Ramir Johnson move from wide receiver to wide back or whatever they're going to have with him, where he's out kind of playing wide receiver this year. People using that, saying, well, that's your starting running back last season. Now there's no room for him in the running back room. But on the flip side of things, could this be something that we look back on in a week and say, oh, they moved Ramir Johnson to wide receiver because there's no other talent in the wide receiver room. I've been seeing people talking on Twitter, who's going to be the leading wide receiver for Nebraska this season? And I go, well, I don't know. I couldn't tell you who the starters are even going to be in that wide receiver room. Could this be a situation where we look back and just go, oh, that's why they moved Ramir Johnson to wide receiver?
I think of Wan'Dale Robinson a little bit with the Ramir Johnson situation that, exactly. They moved him all over the field, and Wan'Dale Robinson may not have been all that enamored with how they were using him, and that's why he went to Kentucky and out of the NFL. So is Ramir Johnson accepting this role where they say, okay, you are a starting running back last year. You're still going to get carries, but you're also going to be catching passes. You're going to show your versatility. We're going to use you a lot because we've got other great players, in the running back room that we want to utilize, and we want to make you a weapon. And if he can embrace it more so than Wan'Dale, did, I really do. I think that's kind of the same thing.
But I also look back at Wan'Dale and say, well, they were using him at running back because now I look back in that that room and go, oh, there wasn't very much talent in that running back room.
Yeah, that's a great point. But now you have Ramir Johnson, who proved himself last year, not the biggest guy in that room by any stretch of the imagination, but got a lot of heart and guy has experience. But they're going to utilize that. And if Mark Whipple, now we've not seen a Mark Whipple coach the Nebraska football offense yet, so we don't know how he's going to use him necessarily. But I think if you say, look, you've got experience, you've got talent, you're tough. I think you proved that last year. We want to use you. And if that gets some other guys on the field, Gabe Irvin seems to just get lost in conversation. But, all those guys, what are there, six decent running backs? I think we're about to find out.
Emmett Johnson.
Yeah.
You've got some young pups that
Jacquez
Yant's pretty good, but no, I'm excited about some of the options. Bill, they have options and they're pretty vetted options. It's not a situation where a guy is brought in that's highly touted and then leaves the program. You've had guys stick through spring and now through summer, and they're here in Ireland. So if they want to leave, they got to start swimming, right?
I read a preview about Nebraska wide receivers, and they said Nebraska doesn't have anything in the wide receiver room. They lost a lot. I guess Samari Toure, Austin Allen.
He's good.
Right. But it was and all that's left is Omar Manning. I'm like, I think there's a lot more in there than Omar Manning.
I do think there's a gap after Trey. I think there's some catch up, some makeup to do, and that also you got to be available if you're Omar Manning, because I think Omar's, if you're talking about a body type and a flex possibility, I mean at 6'3", 6'4", that guy could be a beast. You've compared him a lot to Des Bryant, body type wise.
Yeah, that's what he is.
But there are more options out there for Nebraska than just nobody other than Omar Manning. I mean, you've got Vokalek, I think is going to be an Austin Allen like tight end. It's going to be a safety. Marcus Washington, Omar Manning, Trey Palmer, Ramir Johnson. I just think that there's a lot more going on with Nebraska's receiving game than people give them credit for.
Yeah, it feels like you have threats now, right? Like you do have those threats. Can the quarterback deliver the ball? Can the offensive line protect in order for that to happen? Those are all questions we just don't know until we actually see this team come out there under a different offensive line coach. Because I think we can all say, look, I'm sure Greg Austin, he did do good things at UCF, and he's done good things before. It's not an indictment on him.
Good enough things get hired by some big-time people.
Well, right, but for whatever reason, the offensive line just flat out did not perform well last year, period. That's not talking smack on anybody except the performance. Mm-hmm. Will that change enough to be able to actually use these weapons?
Bill, we got to say goodbye. Thank you so much for joining us. And what we do, Dublin, Ireland, we're out of Guinness almost. We got to say goodbye.
I understand now. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so give me your score prediction. People love this. Bill Doleman says what?
Well, I see Nebraska as a 13-point favorite, and I think Nebraska will cover. I think that Casey Thompson's experience, I think his chemistry with Marcus Washington, I think Ramir Johnson, the offensive line is going to be key. But I think Nebraska covers this. I think the 50-point margin for the over-under is going to be tough for both teams to reach. But Nebraska covers 13 to -1.
Bill Doleman says 13 -1 Nebraska. Wow.
That's a good one.
Good.
They're going to cover.
They'll cover. They will cover. Give Sir Shags-a-Lot a hug, your pup. All right.
Is that his actual name?
I will.
That's his name, is Shags.
Oh.
We may have to switch to Jameson.
Sounds good.
All right. Billy D, we love you, brother. We'll see you when we get back.
Thanks, Bill.
All right, boys. Enjoy the game and go Big Red. And I can't wait to hear Kraynak give me a yabba dabba do with eating that plate of lamb chops there. So. Good on you, boys.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with you. We're winding down a Friday road show here from the Mary Cobbler, Chris Schmidt, Mark Kraynak. Big thanks to Mitch Sherman, Bill Doleman for being with us. As it is that time, we are getting the Friday forecast kicked off from Dublin. And he is imaginary. He wears red. The infamous Clauseborne is with us. Claus, you ready for 2022 kickoff? We made it across the pond. And we're doing well. How are you?
Well, I'm doing okay. Certainly ready to see some games get played. Little disappointed in the Irish people, though. They are what I believe young folks like you and Marcus would call posers. I've been seeing all these cars with red ends in the back, and not one of them has been able to give me their take on the read option abilities of Casey Thompson or the attacking linebacker mentality that I'm hoping we bring. So every time I've tried to strike up a conversation, all they've been able to discuss with me is pink hearts, yellow moons, orange stars, and blue diamonds. So a little bit disappointed in that, but certainly ready to see the game.
Clauseborne is with us. You know that N is for novice, not knowledge in Ireland because of, and I love this idea. I mean, I'm going to make Junior put a red sticker on his vehicle when he turns 16 for 3 years. I'm going to go the extra year versus the 2 years you're required to do so in Ireland here if you're a new driver. I think it's a brilliant idea.
Well, Christopher, if you're the one teaching him to drive, we might want to bump that to 10. So.
Well, let's get into some college football predictions as it is the Friday forecast. And, it's interesting here with the Big Ten. Wyoming, the Fighting Craig Bulls, are underdog to last year's Week 0 opponent, the Pig Farmer and Brett Bielema. The Illini hosting Wyoming will start there. They're the 9 o'clock showing on BTN, 9 Eastern. We'll get to Nebraska Northwestern in a bit. But Elijah, you get us kicked off here. Are you going Powder River Buck, or are you going to go with the Illini, who were not far off from being bowl eligible last year? They finished 5-7.
One more time, what was the line?
-13 Illinois.
Ooh, that's a steep line for Week 1, especially with the Brett Bielema team that if that game gets down to the fourth quarter, they're going to be running the ball a lot, not trying to run the score up. That's how that Illinois team strikes me. So I do see Illinois getting a win, and it's so hard to predict games in Week 0 just because we don't know anything about these teams. But last I checked, Wyoming does not have a guy on the roster named Josh Allen. So I'm going to take Wyoming to win, and I think they win by at least 10, but that 13 number is going to be hard to come by. So give me Illinois winning this game 27-17 over Wyoming, a win but no cover for the Fighting Illini.
10-point win for Wyoming. What do you think, Kraynak? You like Craig Bull?
Yeah, I've studied Wyoming extensively.
You don't give two damns about this game.
I know a ton about them. I watch every single game. I don't know a ton about Wyoming, but have followed their program, obviously, with Craig Bull for quite some time.
Zach Duvall, baby.
I think you got a couple teams that are fairly similar in terms of how they approach things. But I think Bielema, I think he's a good fit at Illinois. I'm bullish. I'm bullish on Bielema at Illinois. I think what he did in year 1 was about as good as you could expect, if not better, in terms of what he did there. So, and just their overall approach. He's gonna preach physicality on both sides. I would have to go Illinois covering that one, because I think that you got two similar approaches, but you got one roster that is just more supremely talented than the other. And so I'm going to go Illinois 31, and I'll go Wyoming 13. That's a reciprocal, by the way.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, a little.
I think Illinois will get an extra score here on Wyoming. I think Bielema is going to get them bowl eligible this year. I like their defense. I like their physicality. They won at Penn State last year, low-scoring ball game.
That was a great game to watch. That
it was just
$5 billion overtime game.
We're going to line up with 58 offensive linemen and just go bumper car on you. Yeah. So I think they get it done. 30-13, the win and the cover for the Illini. Clauseborne, what happens here with the Cowboys and the Illini?
Well, first of all, I'm just impressed that anybody associated with this program knows the word reciprocal, so congratulations.
Thank you.
But I've got to say I'm a little conflicted. I think Illinois has more talent, but Wyoming's future and former coaches of Nebraska make up roughly 12% of Wyoming's all-time population, so I don't know really which way to go. I suppose you guys are the experts, air quotes. So I'll agree and take Illinois 27 and Wyoming 10.
All right, 17-point win. Let's get to the main attraction, that is Nebraska, that is Northwestern in Dublin, the Friday forecast. Here at the Mary Cobbler, bless these folks. We'll be here tomorrow from 1 to 3 local time, our regular 7 to 9 a.m. weekend edition time. And the line at 13.5, the over-under right at 50 or around there. And I'm going to jump into the pool first, and I'm going to say Nebraska does something they haven't done, and that's win a close ball game tomorrow. I think Nebraska finds enough defensively and can lean on a run game offensively.
Yeah.
I'm going 27-17. I think they'll be much better in special teams, at least to start things off. I like the focus. I like the changes. And I like where Nebraska's going to be from a confidence standpoint. They'll just probably play some boring football tomorrow, but that's okay. That's a step in the right direction. Win but no cover. A 10-point win, 27-17 is what I say. Elijah, you're up.
Yeah, I think this defense really battens down the hatches tomorrow for Nebraska. I think the under 50.5 is almost guaranteed at this point. That number even feels inflated to me, and I'm going to change up.
Kraynak's doing a rain dance next, so
I'm going to change up my tune slightly from what I said this morning on our sister station 1240 KFOR. Over there, I said 24-13, and as time has gone on, you know what? I think Northwestern probably keeps this game close at the end. That's what a Pat Fitzgerald team does, but I don't think it's going to be enough. I think the Husker defense is too much, and the offense is going to do just enough to get the win. So give me Nebraska winning this game 24-20, under hits, but Nebraska does not cover that 13.5 point spread. That spread is huge for this Husker team.
Mark Kraynak with us. What do you say?
I think when you have an offensive coordinator from Pitt and a quarterback from Texas and a running back from JUCO and a deep threat from LSU and trying to meld that all together. Did I say Texas? What did I say?
No, I said
and
Texas.
Texas.
And Texas.
Yeah, Marcus Washington. I don't think that all melds together into some sort of,
magic cover.
Yeah, I don't think that melds together beautifully in week one. And but I still think it's similar to what you're saying, Elijah. I think the defense is tough enough, and I don't think Northwestern is talented enough to do much there. Pretty similar score. I got 24-17. I don't think there's any way that Nebraska covers here. I don't see there's any way that it's a big scoring game. I do think you're going to see quite a bit of Ramir Johnson in different ways as they try to get the offense going.
Claus, your shot, your call. Come on, what's happening?
Well, obviously a game in Ireland, there's going to be some luck involved. And you might think that it's on the side of Northwestern. They've got the Irish flag behind their helmet logo, and they dye the river green in Chicago every year, which I still maintain is the fault of the Dave Matthews Band. One of you got it. But really, if you look at it, Nebraska's got way more Irish history. Of course, our patron saint, Bob Devaney, if he were any more Irish, his blood type would have been Jameson. Garth Brooks has a song named Ireland, and he has sold out our stadium just as well as we have. Plus, we've got an official registered limerick writer on our staff here. And he wrote this limerick. Scott Frost is the coach of the Huskers. His decisions have left some fans flustered, but now we've got QB1, and now that that's done, many big wins will be mustered. Nebraska 44 and Northwestern 20.
Wow.
Clauseborne says the hammer is dropped 44-20. Claus, we appreciate you. Thanks for hanging in with us.
Okay.
Miss us?
Come here, brother. Give me a hug. Bring it in for the real thing.
We're on call for you. Catch the podcast at HailVarsity.com, the ESPN Lincoln app, or download them on iTunes.
Saddle up, partner.
Back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Wrapping up a Friday edition of Hail Varsity Radio, we are presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Elijah Herbal here in the studios of ESPN Lincoln, taking you through the last couple minutes of the show today as Chris and Mark. Yesterday I said off to bed, and I would say that again today as it's 11:54 Dublin time, but knowing Chris and Mark, they're probably off to hit another bar or two and taking the scene in Dublin before they get off to bed tonight, because it's an early wake-up call for me tomorrow. I'll be in studio about 6:30 as we're going to get the Saturday morning edition rocking from 7 to 9 a.m., and you can catch us streaming on ESPNLincoln.com. That's for our listeners across the state who can't catch us going live from 7 to 9. And we're also going to have that podcast up before kickoff tomorrow, so you can catch us in podcast form as well. But the best way to catch us will be in live form online, ESPNLincoln.com. Check us out. It's going to be Chris Schmidt and Mark Kraynak. They're going to be back at the Mary Cobbler tomorrow, and sounds like we're working on getting Brandon Vogel in on site, maybe an Aaron Sorensen spotting as well, as those two are your team on hand in Dublin covering the Huskers as they take on Northwestern. And we are 16 hours away from kickoff right now, so time is flying. That game will be here before you know it, and we're also going to have a reaction show for our local listeners immediately following postgame, but our real reaction show here on Hail Varsity Radio will be Monday afternoon from 4 to 6, so check us out for the reaction. Win, loss, or God forbid, a tie, we will react to it all. We'll be fielding your calls Monday, 402-466-3776. Chris Schmidt and Mark Kraynak will still be on scene in Dublin. They fly back for the United States on Tuesday, so lucky to have them again on Monday to get all the reaction to Nebraska versus Northwestern. Locked in our predictions. We all have Nebraska winning, so if it goes the other way, I'm sure everyone listening at home will want to chime in and give their thoughts on the game, and even with a win as well, that's an option too. You can give us a call, give us a tweet at Herbal Essences for me, at Schmidt_radio for Chris Schmidt, and at Varsity Radio for the radio show as a whole. Give us a reaction to the game while it's happening tomorrow. I know I'll be on Twitter throwing up some tweets, and love to get your thoughts on the game as well. So that's how you connect with us during the game tomorrow. If you missed anything from the show today, you can check it out in podcast form. I'll start off by plugging the Hail Varsity YouTube page. It's a great way to get connected with us. We see your comments to whoever it was. It wasn't an actual name, but they commented that they thought I was checking out a girl in the bar yesterday on the show. I deny these allegations. I would not be distracted during a time like this. Football season is upon us. My eyes are only firmly locked upon Husker football. That's why I'm a professional. Would never be distracted by a woman at the bar. So let that be a lesson to you that A, I care about football, and B, we also see your comments on the Hail Varsity YouTube page. So if you have some show thoughts, give us those thoughts in the Hail Varsity YouTube page comments from Hail Varsity Radio, or you can also leave us a review. Reviews are what pay the bills in radio, so you can leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts, and let us know what you think, good, bad, or ugly. That'll do it for us here on a Friday. We'll get connected with you again tomorrow morning, the Saturday morning edition from 7 to 9. Join us. We'd love to hear from you. We'll get the live stream rocking on ESPN Lincoln's Twitter and Facebook as well. That's when we'll talk to you again. For Chris Schmidt and Mark Kraynak, this is Elijah Herbal saying we'll talk to you in the morning.